Well, Roosters fans, welcome back to Roosters Radio. And we love having him on the show. He comes on a couple of times a year and gives us his insights. He's been with us for over 300 games. He's none other than a very humble, very intellectual coach, Mr. Trent Robinson. Just back from a Olympic sleep, I believe, Robbo.
An Olympic sleep.
Well, you've been staying up watching all
I
the
have
action.
been. I've been waking up early mornings and enjoying the glow that is the Olympics.
Yeah, well, tell us a bit about it. I mean, obviously, you know, man managing athletes and being a former athlete yourself. What do you pick out of the Olympics? What, you know, it's something for you to relax, is it, or is it just?
No, I think when you watch sport, I think that's why people love watching sport. You know, we always love watching films and stuff, but often that's directed and managed, and whereas sport's raw and it's pure emotion, and we get to see people trying to achieve their best, sometimes doing that, most of the time not. And then the Olympics is the height of that, I think, in world sport. It's the height of emotions. You can see the athletes going through the pinnacle of their career in the space of 2 weeks, and achieving lifelong dreams or failing, and to see that is it's an amazing thing to watch.
Robbo, when we look at the Olympics, we all marvel at, you know, the physiques and, you know, Simone Biles and the gymnastics and what she can do. And, you know, we talked off air about, you know, the way the runners look and the difference, you know. If you could be an Olympian in any sport, what would be your chosen sport? And a gold medal winner.
Yeah, gold medal winner. Look, I think as an Australian, the swimming is something that you would love to do. The 50 free. So what Cam McAvoy did there was something really special. But then the height of it, if you could run athletics and run fast, I think you have a mix between the individual sport and the team sport, but some of those individual sort of swimming and running is quite special.
Robbo, hypothetical here. We watched we marvelled, as a matter of fact, at the 100-metre dash. It was like a photo finish. You couldn't, you know, to the naked eye, they looked like they crossed together. But to that, the bloke who ran second, Thompson, I think his name was, as a coach, what do you say to him?
Well, an amazing run, but then it's... I don't know the technical, but then you talk about the finish. You know, you have to be so technical, start, middle, end of a 100-metre race, and you start thinking about the 0.005 to
it's crazy, isn't it?
You go, well, hey, you start thinking about the finish, and did I do everything I possibly could? And it's such a habit in the races just to glide over the line, and they pull up in semis and heats and all of that, but the practice of the finish, you'd imagine he'd like that again.
What a race it was. And the 200-metre, and then he wins the 100-metre. He was fantastic, the USA. Lyle,
that's him.
Noah Lyle, yeah.
Awesome.
As a coach also, are you looking at sports differently than us mere mortals? And are you trying to tap into something that you're seeing from a performance standpoint? And I'll give you an example. I was watching the pole vault, and the Australian decided not to go for 4.75 metres, so that was a strategy. Now, it only happened that a French pole vaulter didn't complete the get over the bar in the last thing, and he got through to the final, which is still to be. But I just think from a coaching perspective, are you looking through a different lens than us?
Well, you do look for different lessons and either tactics or strategies. The techniques, that's up to the individual sport, but the tactics and strategies that go with it, you definitely can align that to your own sport. I think the pole vault, the female British jumper, she was world champion, I think, this year, and then goes for a higher height, misses all three, and then another 20 go through. Yeah. So those sort of things. But then, I mean, there's so many lessons in listening to the commentary after somebody wins, or listening to the words that they speak leading into an event or between an event. It's so key on having a look at their mindset and what they're thinking at that time. So I'm really interested in the interviews as well, pre and post and during. I think that gives good insight into the psychology of the sports.
Robbo, as a fan, do you get emotional? I mean, we all rode the wave of the Fox sisters. You know, we saw that great BMX ride, by Saya there. It was great to see the insights, as you say, to the family. Do you get emotional? Because you're just a fan like us.
Definitely. You know what? Like I mean, I think there'd be more tears of joy during the Olympics than any other time in the 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm the same. I think when the guys won the doubles.
Oh, unbelievable.
And then when you see the daughter crossing the fingers,
Yes.
and even now you start, and then you see them embracing their kids afterwards. You go through, you live in their shoes. That's what you project a little bit. And you think, imagine the feeling that they would have with their kids and as a family, and
Even Djokovic doing that. Like, he got an amazing world champion at tennis and he wins gold, and his emotions going to his box and his family and his daughter.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, and that's why you love to see the sport is the sport, and achieving that and holding your mentality through to win. But then Olympics does it better than anywhere else, or we're more exposed to that the family surrounding it, because there's that story. I think there's lots of good documentaries coming out now that we're seeing the story, whereas so Channel 9 doing the coverage and doing almost 24-hour coverage allows insight into the stories around it, and that's why sport's the best theatre in the world.
Do you think there's a synergy, Robbo, with what you do? I mean, you are, one of the best coach, the best coach we've ever had at the Roosters, and probably heading towards, and I know you don't, worry about the trophies and the accolades, but heading towards one of the best coaches of all time in the game. Do you think there's a big synergy with, preparing the athletes and the sacrifice that we as fans and laymen, we see it from the outside, but you live, breathe it, and prepare it? So do you see there's a synergy with the Olympics and what
Definitely.
we do in the Roosters?
Yeah, I mean, there's, as I said, take out the sport around what's the techniques that you need to participate in that sport, but when it comes to how do you prepare, the discussions, the planning of that, any of the mindset preparedness that you need to do to perform in that sport, all of that, there are lessons everywhere. And I go between observing that and taking mental notes and, crying on the lounge watching a athlete see their parents or their kids and stuff. So that's why it's just a magical time, I think, for all of us.
Speaking of magical times, Robbo, it's a magical time to be a Roosters fan, and I put this question to you every time you join us on the show, and it's the old school teacher report card.
Yeah.
What would you be rating us at the moment, the season thus far?
Thus far, I would. It's hard because you go into different areas of the game, but somewhere between sort of an A- and a B+.
I had a B+ in my head, yeah.
And so there's some areas of the game that we're really, really good at, and then there's some things there that I still want to improve over the next month in getting ready for the finals. So I've really enjoyed this season. I feel like starting back in the pre-season and then going back to Vegas and then the journey that we've been on, it's really good. But that grade is coming.
It reminds me of my own report cards where it used to have easily distracted and room for improvement.
That was me all over.
Still does.
Yeah, I think there's. It's been such a worked through year for us. I think we've been working the last couple of years to get this squad together. There's some endings coming,
Yes.
but there's also been some real key development in some of the younger players as well coming through, and we've just got to make sure we put that all together towards the best version that we've got, and I feel like that's a pretty good version by the end of the year, and then we'll be right in the mix there.
Let's talk about the room for improvement. Not giving too much away, but what is it exactly in your eyes?
I feel like if you look at the way that let's just go simple attack and defence, I think our attack's 1, defence is 3, right? So the tools are there. There's some things that I'd like to improve within those. But it's how we run the attack and defence at different points in the game. We will blow teams apart and we'll continue to do that. And then I'd like us to work on our patience a bit. You know, we're impatient because we do have those tools. But that's why I feel like it's in our hands there when it comes to, okay, if we're good at attack and we're good at D, how do you manage those two to manage the whole game? And I think that's the improvement that we need to make.
We've seen glimpses of amazing football, but from a fan's point of view, we haven't played a full 80 minutes. I think we play 20 on, 5 or 10 off, and we get another kind of surge or something. But I don't think, in my view anyway, that we've put a full 80-minute performance on the paddock yet.
I think that's hard in one sense because our highs, we can put the foot down, and that's not sustainable for 80 minutes. So the expectation is, well, why don't you keep doing that? You'd beat every team by 60 or 70 if that was the case, and we've done that once or twice. You know, we had Dragons.
And put a few 40 point scores up.
And that's why we've been able to do that. But then also that isn't sustainable. The way
speed of the game, like as well. You know, that's got to come into it at some point.
Yeah, and I think that our ability to do that has created an expectation that keep doing that. Where we're playing NRL, we know that that's going to ebb and flow, and then, you know, for the most part, our D has been in good order. We've had some glimpses of some stuff that we don't want to see again. Last week was a good example of that, and so. But that's the search. The stuff that you're talking about, I'm sort of slightly on that expectation of putting the foot down. I'm not. I'll ride those for 20 minutes, but it's then after that 20 minutes when it goes, there's a lull there for 20 minutes. I want that lull to be 0-0.
Yes.
You know, I don't want that lull to be 12-0 against or 12-6 or I'm okay not to score points, but let's go 18-0 and then let's go 0-0 for that next period whilst you're in the arm wrestle. And that's our development. That's what we need to get done.
Love it.
Robbo, I mean, we talk about a Roosters style of footy, and there's some, from fans, you know, as Silky just alluded to, we get frustrated because we want them to go on, and you've just given us clarity on that. It can't go on, otherwise we'd have the 70-0 scorelines. But do you get frustrated yourself? You seem pretty composed in the box, and even afterwards, you know, you hold a level of composure where we're sitting there. Cooper's already taken his Arthur Beetson photo down. He's probably, you know, kick the dog. Yeah, the dog's out the window. But, you know, do you get times where you get frustrated because, you seem to hold it together?
It's a funny thing as a Roosters coach or supporter. Your expectation is, I want it now, or I want to get that, or I want to see that result at the end. And sometimes as a coach, you know, I'm becoming better at that. And as a fan, you go, well, let's ride the journey, you know, like let's enjoy, like people, it's okay to win a game by 6 points or 8 points, you know, like it's okay to do that. There's definitely, you want to win a certain way, and I want to see that more often. I think we've had a couple of disappointing performances, but for the most part, we've been pretty solid this year. But that doesn't change that belief in what's next. You know, that continual search. This is the best time to play your best footy is coming up. Doesn't matter what you've done, you need to know your footy over the next 2 months. And so the belief and the work goes towards, well, what's next? Okay, I take on board all of that, but I think we've got better as well in us, so let's go and search for that.
Tell me, last week we saw a horrible accidental injury to both Lindsay and Victor. And I look to the box and look to you, and I see you've got a great team around you. I know you've always had great teams, and that's a credit to what you do in the off-season. But in that moment, do you need to defer to Justin Holbrook, or do you say to King, like, you know, does the team come together and collaborate to make that split decision of who's coming on? When two of our, you know, front men come off, you've got to make a decision within moments. Do you defer? Do you?
Yes, some of those. I mean, it's pretty easy, those ones, to be honest.
Yep.
As soon as you we've already worked through who our replacements are, at what time, and then there wasn't an interchange made at that point in time, and we knew we needed a right edge back row and a front rower. So we went straight to a long minute front rower, Terrell May, really clear, and Nat Butcher, right edge back row. It's more the ones where we're discussing is at what time we start. So you don't talk about an interchange when an interchange is about to happen. About 5 minutes before that, you know that you're coming up to, okay, we're thinking about replacing Spencer. Okay, let's have a look at Spencer, make sure we get the timing right. Because you might have a 55 minutes or 60 minutes written down, but around the 50-minute mark, we start asking questions. What time do we need to get him off? And then, but you've got to be aware of other guys. See, Terrell May's a really interesting one for us because you don't need to get him off at a specific time. I could get him off at the 50-minute mark, or I could play him through until 80 minutes. Yeah. And so picking the right time, what's the time on the clock, what's the scoreboard, what's the opposition pack look like, they're the ones that you start to discuss, and what variations you can have. You don't have one interchange plan, you usually have 3, and then you start to pick and choose how to put that together.
How often do you go, like you've got 3 plans there, how often do you go off that during a game?
Yeah, almost every game.
I was just thinking that, so like you can plan.
I've got to get a plan better, or...
I don't know if you're allowed to say this, but trust a woman to ask that.
Well, Robbo, I'm learning.
You did so well. Sandra, I've painted the house for in the off-season, and, and all of a sudden you get that, Sandra, you've painted the house in the off-season, and all of a sudden you get that, yeah, but Trent, you missed that spot.
Yeah, but it's true. Like you set a plan, and it's a really good guide. But then there's 2 things. There's the planning, as we know, and then there's adaptation to that moment. So what do we need to do in that time? The intuition with the players, you're trying to read.
Well, that's what makes you a great coach.
Well, I think, most coaches, if they're sitting there and they're going, okay, what did I say on my paper? You write it down on paper so you've got it in your mind, and then they are automatic. You sort of know, I know the timings in my head, and then you're looking for... You have to be in tune with the game to make sure you get the interchanges right. And when you're really good, you get them spot on. I'm talking within a couple of plays of being right. And when you're out of tune, you get them completely wrong and make wrong choices, and you feel like it can affect the game. Because I've thought, you have to, is it 85 changes in the AFL now? Something around 80 changes. And so you've got to make lots of critical decisions there. But when you've only got 8 to make... They are vital that you get them right. So, yeah.
Are there games after it and you go, oh, wow, I stuffed that up?
Yeah, your constant review of I should have gone earlier, or I should have gone later, or I got that right. And that's you and your crew. You know, I'll walk back in at half time, and Tate Barnes will go, okay, I think this is the second half. And I go, yep, you've got it. Or I probably might adjust that or this. Because you're always got to adapt, write a new one at half time as well.
Hey, Robbo, I think from a fan's point of view, the season that Angus Crichton is having has been something that we've all kind of stood up and just applauded. Week in, week out, he's one of our best. But at the start of the year, like he wasn't in the side, was there a time where you just did you guys have a bit of a heart-to-heart at the start of the year, or was there a turning point, or was there a moment in time where you guys sat down? Because, after round 3, he has consistently been one of our top performers. I wondered if you had any kind of hand in that.
Well, no, I think it's been pretty clear that after last year, and then probably the distance from the first grade team, he went back down the order a bit. And that fire of being, in the second team at training, or the second choice at left edge back row, with all the work that he did, he came back in really good form back in November, and he was training the house down. But I also still kept that away from him being in that spot, and then it was his choice. He made a choice well before we had any conversation about anything at all. He was the one that decided how he was going to play, and that's it's just been impressive to watch him week in, week out.
A common theme with all the forwards in particular that we've had on the show this year has been that friendly competition and rivalry at training for those forward spots. And every player that stood exactly where you are, they've loved it. They've loved the challenge. So I mean, as a coach, it must be just so good to watch them ripping in and tearing in and really pushing each other. And I think the results are shown on the field. I've sometimes said it. I feel like sometimes we actually look like we're running harder and tackling harder than the opposition.
Yeah, that competition's key. So you sort of know who the starting guys are, but that probably hasn't been apparent for the last couple of years, because I've been waiting for people also to say, hang on, I'm the starting
step up
left edge back row, I'm the starting right edge back row, or I'm the starting front rower. And so that competition it's good. There's stability in knowing who they are, but there's competition when you don't know who they are, because they know that spot's open. And so the fine balance between having that consistency of combinations, but also offering that competition to say, if you're good enough, you'll take that spot. And then they decide to put it there. There's such a close unit, and there's a respect there. Yeah. But it's also the respect comes through physical contact. So they say to earn respect, you better get in the mix. And so that's, it's a key part of how those guys train.
Is it fair to say you'd put Connor Watson in that bracket as well as Gus, not starting at the beginning of the year and then making, his way into the first grade side and then also State of Origin?
Yeah, I think, his utility ability for us has been really key. Finding that balance with Brandon and Connor and their rotation there. And then, Connor, again, his ability to train at a level is really impressive. But then I've always felt like his best position's lock with a little bit of 9. But then we had Rads there, but then Rads' move to the right edge back row has been key for our balance of our team, the way that we've tried to play. And I feel like he's been incredible this year, Rads for us.
I feel like he's playing like Boyd used to, doing those tough carries out of our own end. When they're our Toops or Dom do the first two, Rads is that third man up. Let's go, get the quick play of the ball.
Yeah, look, it's a
like
funny.
He's fulfilled his potential.
And
that's how it feels.
And there's also that he's got aggression in him constantly. But when you've got to play 80 minutes in the back row, there's a decision-making capacity that you have to have. And his balance between the hardness, but also I need to make top-end decisions constantly. And he's one of the smartest players that I've coached. And toughest. So putting the mix together, and that's why, the view of him playing like Boyd is coming out more and more. He's a great defensive player. But then in the hardest sets, when it gets really, really hard and you're in sort of 15 plays in a row, 20 plays in a row, he's the first forward there ready to say, no, I'll get us out of here. I love watching when he takes his carries. Usually it's the most uncomfortable parts of the game.
What about the number 7?
Yeah, Sammy's. I think I was talking about him, about the development throughout the year. It takes time. Front row and halfback are the latest developing positions on the field when it comes to age. And Sammy's been playing for a long time, and he's been such a great young player. And now I feel like he's heading towards being a great player. And so, but it's taken a lot of his own mental work, just going, okay, I'm seeing the game clearer and clearer, and how do I put it into play? And there's still a lot of development left in him. He's only 21, just about to turn 22. There's a lot of footy left, but he's coming into his best period of his career.
And the captain, of course, it was no secret he would have been disappointed losing that fullback spot at New South Wales level. But how have you kind of assessed him? And his first half last week was unbelievable. But you probably would have had a few conversations with him throughout the season as well, right?
Yeah, I think he's led the way this year for us.
Leadership, man.
Yeah, and he's taken that responsibility on, but he also he was disappointed to his standard for last year, so he came back in early, a few weeks earlier than he should have. He had to come back in the pre-season, and He's such a. I mean, he never looks tired, Teddy. He's always ready to play, but he has to train at a physicality to do that, and that's what he's done. He has been the most consistent player in my eyes so far this year, along with Angus.
Yep.
And he's constantly led, obviously, through that last Origin period as well.
Robbo, I know we're kind of getting short on time, but it'd be remiss of us not to mention, the players that are leaving. Like we've got Jared, we've got Luke, we've got Joey Manu, Joseph Sully. There's probably a couple of more that I've forgotten. But I suppose I know how you celebrate milestone games and make a concerted effort to, get the boys up for that. Is there talk? I know it's probably a bit premature, but, with an eye on the big prize, that we want to send these guys out winners?
Yeah. It's the funny thing is it's an undercurrent that everybody knows that they're going at the end of the year and we're coming to an end. I've seen it before, though. People try and ride that wave thinking that that's going to carry them across the line, and that's the last little bit of mindset that you need. There's so much work that goes into it. You cannot just expect that to be the difference. So you have to go hard constantly, no matter what's going to happen on how you're going to play, all the effort areas, all of that. But then that undercurrent is really clear that we know that this is the last time some legends of our club are going to play. You mentioned Jared and Luke and Manu, hopefully not for Sue, and hopefully not for Manu, but Jared and Luke. We've also got most likely, Napa will finish up and Jenko will finish up. Like there's some guys there that this is their time's coming to an end. So, we know that. We're pretty clear on how we want to finish, but the footy needs to do the talking, and then that'll add on
Maybe
top.
a great Netflix series.
Yeah.
Well,
one day.
Well, riffing on that, Robbo, I mean, let's talk about you for a moment, where, you hit a milestone this year yourself as a coach, 300 games. We've had more 300-game players at the Sydney Roosters than any other club. Yes, Jenko has done his 300 here, but still he's done his 300 here, so we can throw him in the mix. You must be pretty proud of that achievement for you. What did it mean to you and your family? And you got so many more miles in you. But to hit your 300, did you celebrate the wins, as Suki likes to say?
I celebrated that night. I didn't really think about it much that week. It was really nice. The day before, the club did something for me, and then the celebration after. So that was really nice. And some people to say nice messages. But I'm really proud of the 300 gamers, some guys that have gone and come back. And, we were once known, I think, people as the Transit Lounge, because people used to come and go.
Well, that was the ball boy. He almost left.
Yeah.
I need to get some hot chips.
But I think we've been as stable as any club. I think we've shown that through players used and then being able to consistently have those players. We do get star players that come into our club, but the consistency of players coming through, debuting here and playing out many games is I'm really proud of that as a club. I feel like we've enhanced the best parts of the Roosters club, being we do have a swagger. We're really proud of the way that we are, and we stand tall. But we also have a really strong foundation for this area, and also the people that come and work in this club. And so I feel like we've accentuated that. We've become a real stable base for the last couple of decades. Yeah.
Are we going to see like Wayne Bennett in your 70s?
I just saw he's going to get inducted into the Hall of Fame, Wayne.
So he should.
Good
Like,
on
what a
him.
legend
Yeah.
to do that. It's really, I think it's dangerous when you start looking long term as a coach. It's not like, because it's such, you need so much energy for now, right now, that if you start measuring it out over 5 years or a decade or whatever, you need to put everything into right now. So let's just live the moment.
Yeah, and live it well.
Now, Robbo, I know you get your coffee down there on Bronny Road, just down the road from where me and Bush, we're little me fans. And Mitch, he loves listening to this show. He actually dropped me a Simon Sinek book off today, but we're having a chat yesterday, and I was mention that, I was going to be talking to you. I gave you a rap. I said you're a pretty learned man, like you're reading and the like, and they wanted to know, what are you reading at the moment? There's a few people actually asked that question.
Well, what am I reading? You know what? I'm in the middle of Rick Rubin's book.
Yeah.
Creative
Great audio
Act.
book. It's great to listen to in bed.
Yeah, well, it's an
Puts you to sleep, but it's a great book.
Well, it's not one to read from back to front in
Yeah.
2 weeks. It's something to go back to. And I listen to a lot of Rick's podcasts. Same thing. Listening to him and Joe Rogan at the moment about the book. That's that's the current one at the moment.
What else has been there recently? 'Cause I know you get through them.
Yeah, so just before Rick's one,
Bells is writing this down, by the way.
yeah.
Got my pen out.
They all merge into one. The one before that, I went back to some fiction, actually, in the middle of the season, because you're constantly trying to learn.
Yeah.
And so I went back and did Copperhead, amazing book. Like if you want to read a fiction book, won a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, right.
I forget the first name, but Copperhead. It's about the Midwest.
Okay.
Incredible book. And I did Secret River, the old Kate Grenville book about. So I did that in the middle of the season because sometimes you're trying to learn too much. You just go, hey, give me some escapism for a bit. So I went and did those.
That's interesting.
I made a bit of a quiz from one of your big fans. Saw you at Newtown with the lovely wife, Sandra. Mary's Burgers? A bit of a fan of Mary's.
You've been spotted there.
Newtown's the best. Well, it's been a while since I've been to
Yeah.
Newtown, but I like going to Newtown Mary's with all the graffiti on the wall and
Good burgers.
good
Do
burgers.
you get left alone, or you get people still coming up to you and
Couple of
Not
blue
at
bags harassing you.
not in
Not
Newtown.
in Newtown.
Not in Newtown.
yeah, harassing you for different reasons, I assume. So it's still harassment.
It's great.
Robbo, it's no secret that you're a dedicated first grade coach, but also you can be found any given Sunday if we've played a Friday night at a junior league game. I was with you Sunday at the Mighty Paddo Colts. You got Noah at Bondi United, other great
Go
club.
the Terrans.
Yes, and and you spread yourself across the Crocs through vicariously through Victor and everything else, and then of course you're dashing off to the NRLW game. A couple of years ago we interviewed you. You talked about the characteristics to be a Roosters footballer. For all our young fans that listen to this podcast, and there's quite a few, what do they need to do to become the next Victor Radley, Luke Ricketson, Brian Fletcher, Ryan Cross?
I think one of the things is, everyone talks about a talent scout, so talent's pretty easy to see, and it's quite important, in whatever sport. You've got to show promise in whatever sport, but then that's also fleeting once you get to the top, like the hard work base. So we're talking about James Tedesco. Everyone thought he was a really talented player when we got him back in 2018, but it was the hard work that differentiated him into Australian captain New South Wales, right? So you've got to get you are looking for someone that's going to work really hard. And then the other characteristic is that the humbleness at which you go about it. How do you be really confident and have belief, but then also be really humble? And so someone that doesn't think they're better than anybody else, but they're going to work tirelessly to be the best version of themselves. So hard work and humbleness are pretty key in what we do. And hopefully a lot of our guys show that at different times.
I reckon it showed you through the podcast, isn't it, Sylvie? We've had and Bells, we've had so many great interviews, and they always say it comes from the top. So I think players are getting on board the culture that is it, and we have our own culture at Roosters Radio off the back of it. So, Coach Robinson, we love having you on. We really appreciate you taking the time out on a week off for the boys, and mate, long live our success this season. No pressure on you, but you get that. You get that was me, man.
That's what. See, that's the passion. That's the passion.
I just outed myself as a true Rooster. Keep that. You go get that trophy.
Yeah, that's the belief in what we're doing. We've got one goal, that we're heading towards. We know there's 2025 and 20, but in the end, it's just the now. Let's go after it. Let's do it in the Roosters way, and love the show and the support and the belief that you guys have. So let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Thanks, Robbo.
East to
Thank
win.
you.
East to win.